A very good evening to you this Monday evening. Welcome to Monday Night News. I'm Yvonne Okwara Matole. We have all the day's top stories for you, plus the latest analysis on the big issues that are facing Kenyans today. We will, of course, be talking about that consignment of maize from Mexico. We'll be speaking to Francis Ontoma on that. The big news about just how fast that consignment was able to make its way to our shores and to the country, and also how fast that will make it onto your plate tonight and in coming nights. We will also be having Abby Agina for the latest in the world of business. He'll be focusing on the Sino-Kenyan relations there, even as President Uhuru continues with the big signings and the big loans that we're now hearing from China on his current tour there. Plus, in the world of politics, the Political Parties Tribunal continuing to sit and give judgments and verdicts on the party primaries that have just concluded. Which way? We'll be speaking to the chair of that tribunal here on Monday Night News. Welcome to our program tonight. Let's get started with our top stories.
This maize was imported competitively through private importers.
New twist as government seeks to explain the row surrounding the imported maize. Killer bus owner arraigned in court and charged with 2 offences over Saturday accident.
Kama hamko tayari, mnaweza kukaa nyumbani. Wale wengine watashindana na sisi.
Outrage over NASA warning as IEBC calls for sobriety over results announcement case. And the search for 3,000 military recruits kicks off countrywide in a month-long exercise. Thank you for making Monday Night News your choice bulletin tonight. Our sign language interpreter is Meresha Owiti. We want to begin in Mombasa tonight with a new twist to the Mexico maize saga, which has now taken a political turn. Listen to the latest statement by the Deputy President on this very issue.
Saa hizi tumeagiza vyakula. Saa ile chakula imefika, wanaanza kutuambia mbona hii chakula imefika haraka. Wale walikuwa wanataka chakula hii chelewe ndio wapate kazi gani?
Well, today the government says the consignment did not directly come from Mexico. Transport PS Paul Maringa told journalists earlier today that the ship carrying the maize in fact came from South Africa and took 5 days to get to Mombasa. KTN's Francis Ontoma is in the coastal city and now joins us with the details. Francis, it's been an interesting turn of events. I mean, the government is seemingly going out of its way to clear this saga that just won't go away. So are we any closer to getting all the answers?
Well, Yvonne, it depends actually who posed that question to, but certainly the government was out to make 2 important points: that the maize did not directly come from Mexico and that it is the private millers that brought in this particular consignment. Certainly, this is not the end, but just the beginning of this particular saga. Watch this. The process of offloading the first consignment of the imported duty-free maize got underway, even in the middle of the political storm generated by the rapid importation of this particular consignment. Transport PS Professor Paul Maringa making the trip to monitor what the government says will ease the pain of Kenyans at the dinner table. But the government official had many questions to answer.
I want to read some basic statistics for you. For example, the maize has been imported originally from Mexico, rerouted through South Africa, Durban port. And since we ordered the maize, it was brought in here within 5 days. It's fresh maize, well stored. And gentlemen and ladies, this is white maize, not yellow maize, white maize, for the avoidance of doubt.
Only last week, Agriculture CS was in Mombasa to receive the consignment, but now the government says it was never involved in the importation.
I'm happy to say the awaited maize which we have imported, which is supposed to stabilize our prices in the country, the first ship is what we are seeing today.
This maize was imported competitively through private importers. All right, we have Kitui Flour Mills that has imported 10,000 tons. Pembe Flour Mills has imported 10,000 tons, and High Dairy P Limited 9,900 tons. The reason why I give this specific information, all right, is to dissuade any Kenyan from the speculation that government is doing business within itself. This is not my private company. These are publicly known companies.
The state says the maize was imported into South Africa last year from Mexico when there was a shortage in that country. It is the excess of wheat stored in Durban that was sold to Kenya by Inter-Africa Grains Pty of Johannesburg. The PS says it took 5 days to ship the package to Kenya.
Do you know how ships operate? You have big ships hanging around in the ocean. It's business, looking for places to sell maize. So the maize was imported from Mexico into South Africa under storage. All right, and then we are picking it up from there. And that's why we're able to order and get it within 5 days. Durban is not far from where we are.
Peter Otieno is a Mombasa-based expert in the imports and exports business. He says that the process of importation of maize is not a mysterious one.
In Kenya, we have very good skimmers. They skim things. After skimming, they look for a law that is going to favor them. And they will never go wrong when they want to do something. The reason why I'm saying this is, if you want order for cargo from any country, you have first to negotiate for rates.
Well, this is the consignment that the state says will help now stabilize the prices of Kenya's staple food ugali. But local operators here say depending on weather changes, this process may actually take less than 24 hours to complete the offloading. Out of the 30,000 metric tons of maize imported, 5,100 metric tons have already been collected by various millers for processing. On the 24th of this month, another ship carrying 37,050 metric tons of maize will dock at the port of Mombasa. But even as the efforts get underway, the government is still under pressure to find lasting solutions.
There are people who are very close to the power and they knew this thing is forthcoming. So they arranged themselves and ordered for this cargo much earlier. So that such that by the time the cargo is almost docking, the vessel is almost docking, the law has already been passed.
And so, Yvonne, quite a confusing state of affairs there by the state, but of course the government keep insisting that this is just the first step in trying to stabilize the prices of Kenya's staple food ugali.
Yes, thank you very much for that, Francis Ontomwa. Indeed, I think what Kenyans really want is cheaper food on their tables and how to make sure this doesn't become a perennial issue as we have seen in the last couple of years. Francis Ontomwa from Mombasa, thank you very much for your reporting on this maize issue tonight. Let's now take a look at the issue surrounding road carnage in the country. Humphrey Mulindi, the owner of the bus that claimed 19 lives on Saturday, has been arraigned in a Naivasha court facing 2 counts of offences. Mulindi has denied allowing his vehicle to ply the route not prescribed by its PSV route. The accused also denied the charge of allowing his bus to operate without a license. Mulindi's lawyer, George Okach, told the court his client was not aware that his vehicle was headed to Busia. Okach also added that his client had reported the theft of the bus prior to the accident. Mulindi was released on a 1 million shillings bond with a surety of a similar amount. The case will be heard on the 23rd of August. Right, a section of Kenyans have reacted angrily to a threat by the opposition NASA to boycott elections if the Court of Appeal rules against their wish for presidential results to be announced at constituency level. Jubilee Party has dared NASA to go ahead with their threat. This comes even as the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has challenged parties opposed to their appeal to apply to be enjoined in the case instead of debating the matter out of court. Marini Mwangi reports.
Debate on whether presidential results should be announced at the constituency level or by the chairman of the IEBC at the national level has been a divisive one, with the opposition announcing yesterday that it will not accept this to be done at the national level.
Ile appeal wamepeleka kwa mahakama ambayo jaji mkuu anatarajiwa weke pamoja na appeals board. Tunauliza kama wananasa waondoe mara moja. Kama mahakama itabadilisha hiyo sheria, hakuna uchaguzi Kenya.
Jubilee stalwarts are, however, not amused.
Sisi tumejipanga, and nobody can intimidate IEBC or the judiciary.
We will be keenly watching to see whether the decision of the Court of Appeal is going to be influenced by the threats of NASA, and that will be the beginning of the end of the independence of the judiciary.
But the Kenyan electoral body IEBC has warned political players to desist from discussing matters before courts. In a statement to newsrooms, IEBC challenged anyone opposed to the appeal to seek to be enjoined in the case or to alternatively await completion of the case and seek judicial intervention. IEBC moved to the appellate court after the High Court ruled on the 9th of April that presidential results announced by the 290 constituency returning officers are final. The hearing is slated for 7th and the 8th of June.
Can I, as a petitioner?
And now, a section of legal experts are warning Kenyans to be cautious about the debate, warning it could be prejudicial.
IEBC has a right to appeal against any decision. So does anybody else who is before court. As a party, as a litigant, IEBC must be heard, because that's the law, that's the constitution. If you want the constitution to say IEBC should not be heard, then we can change the constitution to say so, which will never happen.
Messaging probably is what has been gaining results for them. And I think this is where this is coming from. But definitely, indeed, it could be taken as a threat, it could be taken as intimidation.
Law Society of Kenya President Isaac Okero argues that ongoing debates cannot amount to intimidation of the courts, arguing that it is upon the court to render its judgment dispassionately.
It is not going to serve NASA. The judiciary was not put there to serve NASA. It was supposed to serve Kenyans. So if NASA is going to behave in a manner that everything that must go to court must go their way, I think that's foolhardy.
A lot may be said from outside about their work and about the institutions, but they are supposed to only act according to the law, the Constitution.
Observers argue that the August polls will most likely culminate in a presidential election petition at the Supreme Court, a state of affairs which observers say makes credibility of the courts a critical matter ahead of the polls. Marini Mwangi, KTN News.
The Political Parties Disputes Tribunal has now barred Jubilee Party from submitting Murang'a Governor Mwangi Wairia's name to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, pending the hearing of a dispute filed by Kigumo MP Jamle Kamau. Kamau, who had filed a case before the tribunal challenging the win by Wairia during the Jubilee nominations, has protested that the exercise was flawed and full of irregularities. Meanwhile, the Jubilee Party Disciplinary Committee has expelled 2 aspirants for the MCA's position in Pangani and Kakuzi in Murang'a County. Chris Thyro reports.
On Saturday, it was all celebrations at Ihura Stadium as Murang'a Governor Mwangi wa Iria was being handed over the Jubilee certificate by party officials after he defeated Kigumo MP Jamle Kamau during the party primaries. But the party seems to have been short-lived after political parties disputes tribunal barred the party from submitting Mwangi wa Iria's name to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission until a case filed by Jamle Kamau and 4 other Murang'a residents protesting the win by Wairia is heard and determined. This is despite Kamau having indicated that he will not petition or vie as an independent candidate.
I was consulting widely. I have consulted my people in Kigumo, I have consulted my people in Murang'a County, I have consulted my family as well. And after that consultation, I have come to a conclusion that given the fact that I, Jamle Kamau, was one of the pioneers of Jubilee Party, I have decided not to contest for the gubernatorial position in Murang'a County in August.
The Kigumo MP has protested the manner in which the nomination exercise was conducted on grounds that presiding officers had been compromised. Wairia garnered 205,976 votes against Kamau's 119,339 votes.
We all know that there was a lot of rigging, massive rigging, a lot of things that happened that somebody could not even explain what was going on, including people voting 10, 15 times in one polling station, others openly bribing people as they got in, including giving people fertilizer or just getting into the polling booths.
Given that Murang'a County is a Jubilee stronghold, Wairia was confident that he will retain the seat. But for now, he will have to cross his fingers until the case that has been certified as urgent is heard and determined. Yesterday was the last day for political parties to submit the names of the candidates to the IEBC to be gazetted. Meanwhile, the Jubilee Party Disciplinary Committee has taken action against 2 aspirants for the MCA's position in Pangani and Kakuzi wards and expelled them from the party. The 2 aspirants have also been fined 200,000 shillings each for electoral malpractices during the party's primaries. The committee is still investigating several other cases, and according to them, more aspirants could be locked out. Chris Dairu, KTN News.
Machakos gubernatorial aspirant Wavinya Ndeti will now have to wait until Thursday to know if Wiper will forward her name to the IEBC. The political party's disputes tribunal will issue the verdict on Thursday after Machakos Deputy Governor Bernard Kiala, who lost twice in the Wiper party nominations to Wavinya, lodged an appeal seeking to have Wavinya's nomination declared null and void. The tribunal heard the appeal as residents of Machakos took to the streets protesting what they termed as Wavinya's frustration by forces out to lock her out of the Machakos gubernatorial race. And so to talk more about this issue and the conflicting timelines between what's happening at the Disputes Tribunal and those that have been set by IEBC, I'm joined by the chair of the political parties Disputes Tribunal, Chalo Mbobu. Thank you very much, sir, for speaking with us on Monday Night News. Let's start off by asking why the dispute resolution is taking such a long time at your tribunal.
Well, thank you. It's not taking an unduly long time. I think we've done a fairly decent job so far, and we've concluded not less than 150 disputes. We have about 100 more remaining. And the problem really, I think, was precipitated by the manner in which the political parties themselves conducted their own internal dispute resolution processes, because there was a delay in conclusion of those matters, and that delay had a knock-on effect on what we are doing.
Okay, so talk to us then about, we know obviously you have to hear all the cases and all the evidence that is before the tribunal, but then there's the IEBC deadline that is looming and has lapsed. So what happens, for example, in the case of Wavinya Ndeti, hoping that her name will be put forward to the IEBC after going through a nomination exercise not once, but twice?
As a matter of fact, I need to clarify the Wavinya Ndeti situation. The order we've given today, and the less I say about this, the better, is that as a matter of fact, we have struck out the case against Wavinya Ndeti. The case that remains, that comes back before the tribunal on Thursday, is the case against the party, Wiper Democratic Party. So that's the correct position here. Now, another thing that a lot of people are not aware of is the fact that, as a matter of fact, the IEBC has issued a clarification to the effect that political parties should not submit names in respect of those constituencies or seats where there are disputes pending before the tribunal.
All right, but then what happens to that timeline? Is that going to affect it? For example, let's take the case of Gem constituency where the tribunal nullified the results. What assurances can you give to the voters in a constituency like that where they're wondering, so will they now go through a second voting exercise even though, you know, time is not on our side with the electoral calendar?
Well, you know, we are making various types of orders. We are, in many instances, sending matters back to the NEBs, you know, the national election boards of each of these parties. The thing is, we are dealing with, you know, various types of disputes, and each case, as you know, presents a different set or mix of facts and challenges. And it is those facts that lead you to a particular direction or decision. We expect, obviously, that the political parties will try and comply with the orders as quickly as possible so that we do not interfere with the IEBC timelines, you know, in a very deliberate manner.
Chalo, my final question to you would be to talk to us about the trends, if you can, in the disputes that have come before the tribunal. What are some of the allegations or the trends that you are seeing in the evidence that is being presented before the tribunal? Can you speak to us about what are some of the common trends, some of the common complaints or irregularities that are being brought as complaints before the tribunal?
I think most of them are out there in the public domain. You know, lack of ballot papers, in certain instances, presiding officers not being there, in other instances, particularly because, as you understand now, the long rains are here. There are some situations, particularly in northeastern Kenya, where we had that there simply was nothing on the ground in respect of certain parties. And so there are all manner of challenges, and I do hope that the concerned players have learned something out of some of the problems that we had in the party primary process.
Okay, I know you've talked about late delivery of ballot papers. What about other allegations we've been hearing in the public domain, like ballot stuffing, bribery of voters? We've just had Jamle Kamau, the Kigumo MP, alleging that some people were being given fertilizer as they were walking in to the polling stations to vote during the primaries. Are you seeing any others like those? Perhaps you can just give an overview of the lessons that can be learned from what you're seeing.
We've heard about ballot stuffing, definitely. In fact, in certain instances, we also heard about the staffing being so bad that at some point in time the party honchos had to burn some ballots in order to disguise that. I think the learning curve here for me is that as Kenyans we need to certainly grow up and accept that you don't have to die to win public office. I don't know, maybe we need to amend the constitution and make some of these offices less glamorous and you know, so that people stop sort of fighting tooth and nail to get into these offices. But otherwise, you know, I guess one of the things that we must accept is that we are in a growing democracy, and there is a lot to be done, but I think we've come a long way in terms of trying to solve some of these disputes that would otherwise hamper what would in the end be a free and fair election.
Thank you very much for speaking with us tonight on Monday Night News. We appreciate your time. Chalom Bobu, who's the chair of the Political Parties Disputes Tribunal. Of course, we will continue to wait and see the outcome of that as they continue to sit and hear these various issues. Of course, we're awaiting a verdict on Thursday regarding the case around Wavinya Ndeti and her aspirations to be the Machakos governor. Now, the 2017 KDF recruitment drive has kicked off across several counties. The KDF is seeking to bring on board 3,000 recruits to serve in the Kenya Army, Kenya Air Force and the Navy. KDF is warning prospective candidates to know their medical backgrounds before subjecting themselves to the rigorous tests. Mark Namaswa has that story.
Nyeri County was among the first batch of counties where KDF recruitment 2017 began. Young Kenyans in their numbers turning up for the exercise that targets to add an additional 3,000 recruits this year.
The aim of the exercise is to recruit eligible members of the public to join the Kenya Army, the Kenya Air Force, the Kenya Navy, and the Kenya Defense Forces Constabulary.
The recruitment exercise has been staggered across the country from 15th May to 14th June, targeting to furnish Kenya Army, the Kenya Air Force and the Kenya Navy with servicemen and women as well as constables. Each candidate expected to meet a set of selection criteria, including physical attributes. In the past, there have been cases of potential recruits collapsing during the exercises, and this time round, the force has a message for those turning up.
Anybody who knows his or her condition, that maybe could be having any chronic illnesses, that is the time when she or she should actually come forward and not subject he himself or herself to that vigorous exercise.
And those ones who failed the preliminaries, the height, teeth, the weight, we have also removed them. Then now we are removing those ones who are going to go to the next stage, which is going for the run.
The previous perception of the entire recruitment exercise as one mired in corruption and bribery did not escape the attention of the army chiefs. And today the press briefing did not end without the KDF firing a warning shot at those intending to soil the exercise.
Should you give a bribe, ask for a bribe, or take a bribe, you'll be arrested and prosecuted.
The Kenya Defense Forces recruitment also demands that a candidate should be a Kenyan citizen without dual citizenship, be between 18 and 26 years old, be physically and medically fit in accordance with KDF standards, have no criminal record. Men should be at least 5 foot 3 inches tall and women at least 5 feet tall. Female candidates must not be pregnant at recruitment and during training. The minimum grade for recruitment is a D plane with additional professional qualifications for tradesmen, women and artisans.
The vigorous training is standard and they will begin the training on 25th when they report next month, and it will take not less than 7 months before they qualify as recruits grade 3 privates.
Recruitment on Tuesday, 16th May will commence and continue in areas like Kwale, Tana River, Kiambu, Kericho and Busia. Mark Namaswa, KTN News.
Now, Kenya is set to receive significant funding from China for major infrastructure projects which are part of the Silk Road Economic Belt and the 21st Century Maritime Silk Road Initiative. The Chinese government will release approximately 400 billion shillings to Kenya. A breakdown shows that Kenya will get a 19.2 billion shillings in form of a grant for the construction of the Silk Road Fund. Among other key areas of funding set to close in on is the funding of Phase 2 of the Standard Gauge Railway linking Naivasha and Kisumu. A total of 357 billion shillings has been earmarked for the second phase. The extension of the SGR funds will be released in form of a loan from the China Export-Import Bank of China.
This, then taking it now to the next level to see how it can begin to benefit people in those particular areas outside of Nairobi especially. That would be very useful if we could work together to develop something which we can see, and then we can test run in one or two different locations outside of Nairobi and see how that works and how we can move forward.
There are jams day in, day out, which I'll be requesting for the dualling of that particular bypass from Embakasi to Ruiru as part of the asks in our visit here. We shall also be requesting them to consider the dualling of the northern bypass, which comes from Ruiru to Ruaka. And then, more importantly, because to complete the loop, the circular road in Nairobi, from southern bypass, eastern bypass, northern bypass, what has been missing is what we call the western bypass, from Ruaka to the Nairobi-Nakuru highway. That is one of the projects which we signed commercial contract, but we shall be fast-tracking the financing element of it.
Good evening and welcome to KTN Business. My name is Abi Agina. Vodafone International Holdings is set to exchange 35% of its indirect interest in Safaricom to Vodacom Group, its sub-Saharan African subsidiary, for 226.8 million of Vodacom's new ordinary shares. The transaction, valued at 2.36 billion euros, based on Vodacom's closing share price on the 12th of May, will increase Vodafone's ownership in Vodacom to 70% from 65%. Vodafone currently holds a 40% indirect interest in Safaricom through a subsidiary, Vodafone Kenya. Vodacom has agreed to acquire an 87.5% shareholding in Vodafone Kenya, representing a 35% indirect interest in Safaricom. Some good news now. As Kenya readies to start oil exports in June, 3 Kenyan logistics companies have been selected to transport crude oil from Lokichar to the port of Mombasa. According to a statement from the British oil exploration company Tullow Oil, among the firms picked after competitive bidding are Multiple Holies East Africa Limited and Oilfield Movers Limited. The two firms will supply a total of 50 trucks, and Prime Fuels Kenya Limited has also been selected to supply tank containers, specialized transport containers that will be loaded with crude oil. These companies submitted bids that scored the highest on technical and commercial compliance. They also are companies with high expertise in transporting petroleum products across the country. Well, to some technology news now, and a new player has made it to the Kenyan market, and competition in the smartphone segment is set to hot up as India-based phone maker Oppo unveiled its latest model in the Kenyan market. Well, the new phone will have a number of features which has attracted a number of the youthful millennials in regards to the latest brand in the market. Let's get a dose of the next frontier for this week. And fish farming continues to grow its traction among farmers across the country. And on this week's episode of the Next Frontier, Philip Keitani visited farmers in central Kenya who have found an economical way of putting to use their small pieces of land. We bring you the story of a family of 8 from Nyeri County living in an eighth of an acre, and how their desire to be in the fish supply chain is causing a stir in the still waters of central Kenya.
Meet Francis Mwangi, a truck driver and a sole breadwinner in a family of 8. Francis, a reflection of thousands of peasant farmers, shared with me how he had to become creative with his little piece of land. His story is that of a determined man who, after enduring hard economic times, an idea shared to him by a total stranger changed his life for the better. The idea was to take catfish farming. Mwangi decided to take the risk head on.
Sikuwa naona kama ni ukweli, lakini nikaamua kurisk.
1 year down the line, Mwangi tell me the catfish farming project is not only a source of income for him, but he has been able to put food on the table easily and take 4 of his brothers and sisters back to school.
Mimi kulikuwa naona kama ni mchezo hivi, lakini mwisho sasa na hata nafikiria kuweka zingine pale juu.
Catfish farming was introduced to him by the director of Wonderland Fisheries, a specialist in catfish farming, and with 75,000 shillings, the company has an elaborate package for beginners as they construct a pond, conduct training, stock the pond, and provide the farmer with feed for the fish for an entire season, and finally provide the market for the farmer.
Hata sijui anapeleka wapi, soko ni yake. Na mimi mpaka chakula yake yeye huwa analeta. Anajua tu ikiisha, anapiga simu. Chakula iko aje? Anaambia imebaki kilo kama 2. Anakuja nayo.
Catfish farming is being introduced as a profitable alternative to tea and coffee farming, which has for almost a century been regarded as the region's commercial cultivated options. Catfish was selected as the preferred breed because of its fast maturity and ability to adapt to various climatic conditions.
Hii atakula mwenye amekula. Ni biashara. Tumeamua ni biashara. Manake tusikiaza hii kukula tutamaliza.
Most species of catfish are resilient and prolific freshwater fish. You can grow them easily and harvest them quickly with little effort in a small or large pond.
Kwenye wako huko nje, sasa mimi naambia tu kweli, kazi si yote hakuna. Iko, bora akili inafunguka tu kidogo. Maana kama sikutilia maanani kwa ile venye tuliongea na huyu mzee siku ya kwanza, in fact tulikuwa almost watu kama 20 hivi. Maana tulikuwa tumeketi chini. Mimi tu ndio niliamua.
As Mwangi soldiers on with his business, his advice to aspiring fish farmers is ensure you keep your fish healthy, make a point to detect early signs of disease, and take the necessary action and prevent the occurrence of contamination. Many families in central Kenya have very small pieces of land due to over-subdivision of land, but with this new project of catfish farming, most of these farmers now are able to put food on the table and money in their pockets. Philip Keitani for the Next Frontier.
Well, it's time for KTN Sports. My name is Lynn Washira, and straight at the sports news we'll kick off the bulletin in Kisii. And whenever one talks about football in the larger Gusii area, Shabana FC pops up. The side that once represented the country continentally is now struggling to make ends meet. Our South Nyanza reporter Fred Muturi reports.
No meaningful action is being taken for the region that produced football greats like Henry Motego, Michael Koth, Richard Atambo, Elijah Unsika, Henry Nyandoro, just to name a few. Politicians from the region during a major fundraiser in Nairobi in the year 2014 had promised not to relent in making sure that Shabana's lost glory returns, but they did not live to their words.
Hakuna pesa, na unajua mpira wa saizi ni pesa, hii ni career.
any profession kama nyingine yoyote.
FKF South Nyanza branch controls, supervises all football matches and related activities throughout its region, and the area FKF chairperson Yabesh Mose questions the eligibility of the team.
Hiyo club mpaka saa hii ni mwaka moja na mwezi mmoja tangu niingie kwa ofisi. Sijawahi ona yeyote ambaye anakuja mbele yangu kusema kwamba mimi ndio chairman ya Shabana, secretary ya Shabana ama treasurer ya Shabana.
The former Giants have been struggling to hit top gear every other season, but lack of sponsors and internal wrangles make ground the community club.
Labda una tofauti za kibinafsi, usileta hizo tofauti za kibinafsi ukawekea lawama kwa timu, manake sisi hazitusaidii.
Kama walikuwa na malumbano na ile ofisi tulitoa, sisi ni wageni.
These players are working hard in Division 1, having received 11 points after winning 3 games, drawing 2 and losing 2 of the 26 matches played.
Hiyo miaka yote, kwanza mimi nimekaa sana kwa hii timu, nimeona challenge mingi, nikuvumilia tu na kuvumilia juu napenda hii timu. Hatuna kitu kabisa.
A lot of our players tulikuwa na mass exodus. So this year nilibaki na only 7 players out of my players ambao nilikuwa nao last year.
During all their matches they don't get paid, but they depend on a well-wisher, a doctor from Nakuru County who caters for their means of transport. And the team has recruited an experienced player, Demon Selenga, a Congolese who once played for Sofapaka, Gor Mahia and AFC Leopards.
Shabana is one of the best football clubs that Gusii ever had, and the community hope that there will be a return of the glamour days when thousands of fans used to cheer up Shabana at the Gusii Stadium. Fred Muturi, KTN News, Kisii.
To some athletics news now, former marathon world record holder Patrick Makau hopes to return to winning ways this season when he takes part in the 2017 edition of the Berlin Marathon in September. Makau, who is back from a nagging injury, also put in his voice about the Breaking 2 project by sports company Nike that saw Eliud Kipchoge run a time of 2 hours and 25 seconds, the fastest time in history, though not ratified as a world record.
But it was not about the spirit of running, where instead of good running is where we consider all the rules and the regulations, especially from the IEBC. But according to what he did, the thing was not correct, and most of the fans who are good in sports, they could not support that, because like on my side, running is about hardship and the pain. So when you are like that project, there was a lot of shortcuts and a lot of technology.
And many people would want to ask probably where you've been, especially in the last 2 years.
Yeah, actually, on my side, I will not talk of 2 years, because last December I competed on a Fukuoka Marathon, where I managed to come position 2 with a different Macau, where I'm aiming to run Berlin Marathon, and I'm hoping to run a very good time.
And to some volleyball news now, Kenya Prisons women's volleyball team and General Service Unit GSU men's team will be in the running to defend their titles as the 11th edition of the Africa Merchant Assurance Company Amaco International Volleyball Tournament, scheduled for May 19th to 21st, serves off at Eldoret Polytechnic. The two clubs wrestled the titles from rivals Kenya Pipeline and Kenya Defence Forces, respectively, in the 2016 edition. Stiff competition and a great show of talent is expected when over 50 teams from Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda and Burundi take part.
I want to put on record our appreciation for the confidence that Amaco has shown in our federation by working with us for those 11 years. As an organization, we appreciate that sport has enormous power to generate real socio-economic and environmental change and contribute to sustainable development and cohesion and the mindsets and prejudices of our people.
And well, to some rugby news now, all eyes will be at the Twickenham this Saturday as the stadium hosts the last leg of the World Sevens Series circuit. Of course, being the last, let's have a look at where Kenya is standing going to the last leg. First of all, we have South Africa right there leading with a total of 179 points. England coming in second, Fiji coming in third, New Zealand there at the fourth position. Mike Friday's United States of America right there. Well, Kenya comes in at distance 12, going with 58 points, of course, going to the last leg. And do remember that this past weekend where Kenya took part in the Paris Sevens, Kenya only managed to bag 1 point. And in comparison to where the team was standing last season going into the last leg, we can see a drop of about 5 places. Kenya was at position 7 at the last season going to the London Sevens. We see Kenya now at of course position 12. Kenya had 95 points going to that last leg, and of course do remember that Kenya finished the season at an all-time high of 98 points, having scored 3 points at the London Sevens. And well, that's how we wrap up tonight's edition of KTN Sports, but be sure to join me again here tomorrow, that being simply same time, for another comprehensive edition of KTN Sports. But do stay with KTN News. Yvonne Okwara will be up next to wrap up Monday Night News. Tujuliza swali.